The moment Nelson woke up from coma after 5 years, he shouted at his mother. The celebration turned to horror. What he confessed next left the doctors speechless. What he told the doctor will leave you speechless. Where are you watching from right now? Drop a comment before we reveal the shocking truth. Andrew and Fiona shared a deep love and were devoted to each other. Together, they had created a warm and happy home. But their peaceful life took a heartbreaking turn when their son, Nelson, became seriously ill. It began with terrible headaches, sleepless nights, and overwhelming tiredness. Within days, his health grew worse, and his terrified parents rushed him to St. Mary Children's Hospital in California. After running many tests, the doctors discovered Nelson had encephalitis, a dangerous swelling in his brain caused by an infection or his body attacking itself. Even with the best medical care, he kept getting worse. Soon, he could no longer move. As weeks passed, his condition declined further until, finally, he slipped into a coma. Andrew and Fiona were heartbroken. Day after day, they sat beside Nelson's hospital bed, watching helplessly as their once lively little boy lay still, lost in a deep sleep. Fiona couldn't understand why had this happened to her son. Just weeks ago, Nelson had been full of energy, laughing and playing like any healthy child. Now, doctors gave them little hope he would ever wake up. The pain was too much for Fiona to bear. She stopped eating, barely slept, and no longer had the strength to do the things she once loved. Slowly, the grief pulled her into a dark sadness she couldn't escape. Andrew watched helplessly as the woman he loved faded away, just as their son had. Andrew refused to accept defeat. He spent every moment searching for answers, calling doctors, researching treatments, and pleading for help. But no matter how hard he fought, the medical team had the same heartbreaking answer. Nelson might never wake up. Then came the day they dreaded. The doctors sat Andrew and Fiona down in a quiet room. "I'm so sorry," the neurologist said gently. "We've done everything we can. It may be time to take him home and make him comfortable." The words hit like a hammer. How could they give up on their child? Yet the doctors offered no miracles, no more options. Still, Andrew clung to hope. They brought Nelson home, surrounding him with love. Days turned into months, then years. His 12th birthday came and went, but he remained asleep, lost in a world they couldn't reach. Was there still a chance? No one could say. But as long as Nelson breathed, his parents refused to stop believing. Andrew never gave up hope. Each morning he would sit beside Nelson, gently running his fingers through his son's hair and whispering, "We're here, son. Keep fighting. We love you so much." His voice never wavered, even as the years passed without change. But Fiona, her heart couldn't bear the weight of their sorrow. The endless days of watching her son lie motionless, the crushing silence slowly broke her. She withdrew from her job and pushed away friends. The pain twisted into anger, at Andrew, at life, at the unfairness of it all. Some days she couldn't even look at Nelson's frail body without tears of rage. Their home, once filled with love, now felt like a battlefield. Andrew clinging to hope, Fiona drowning in despair. One evening, their pain finally exploded into another fight. "You have to try, Fiona," Andrew yelled, his voice shaking. "This isn't you anymore. We barely talk. We barely eat together. What happened to us?" Fiona's eyes filled with angry tears. "Of course I've changed," she shouted back. "Our son has been asleep for 5 years, Andrew. 5 years. How am I supposed to just be okay?" There was a time when they were happy, when they laughed, held hands, and shared dreams. But now all they seemed to do was hurt each other. Fiona's heart hardened without her even realizing it. Slowly, she started blaming Nelson, not just his illness, but him, for stealing the life they once had. Every time she saw Andrew sitting faithfully by his bedside, murmuring words of hope, she felt a bitter twist in her chest. She couldn't fake that hope anymore. One night, she broke down. "Why won't he just wake up?" she sobbed, her voice raw. "Doesn't he see what this is doing to us? To me?" She paced the room, her breaths coming fast and shallow. For the first time, a terrible thought flickered in her mind. What if he never? She choked back the rest, horrified at herself. But the thought lingered, poisoning the air around her. The truth was, she didn't just feel sad anymore. She felt angry, and that anger scared her most of all. Fiona started staying away from Nelson's room completely. Just walking past his door made her chest ache. She couldn't bring herself to look at him anymore. It hurt too much. Late one night, as she and Andrew sat in the dim kitchen, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm losing myself, Andrew. Every day I wake up and I don't recognize the person I've become. The words hung heavy in the air between them. The night, the pain became too much to bear. Fiona marched into Nelson's room and stood over his still form, her hands trembling. All the anger, grief, and helplessness of 5 long years came pouring out in words which was about to be her biggest regret. The second she said them, her knees buckled. She stumbled back to her bedroom, collapsed on the floor, and wept like she'd never wept before. Great, heaving sobs that shook her entire body. In that moment, she wasn't just crying for Nelson. She was crying for the mother she used to be and what she had become. That night, the darkness swallowed her whole. Fiona reached her breaking point. She saw no way out, no light left in their endless nightmare. With shaking hands, she tried taking her own life. But Andrew found her. Cradling her close, his voice cracked as he begged, "Stay with me. Please, however hard this gets, we have to keep going, together." Tears streamed down his face as he held the woman he loved, both of them shattered but still breathing, still fighting. Andrew made the hardest decision of his life. He brought Fiona to a place where she could heal. At first, she resisted, drowning in shame, but slowly, through therapy and time, she began to find her footing again. She returned home stronger, throwing herself into work and caring for Nelson with renewed purpose. They brought in Sydney, a warm-hearted nurse whose gentle presence filled the house with quiet hope. She'd sit with Nelson for hours, brushing his hair while telling him stories, her voice soft but unwavering, as if she knew somehow he could hear every word. Fiona watched from the doorway one evening, tears in her eyes. For the first time in years, she felt something unfamiliar, something like peace. Then, on an ordinary afternoon, the impossible happened. Sydney was tidying Nelson's room when she froze. Had she just heard something? "Hello?" she asked, glancing around the empty room. Then, a whisper-soft sound. A moan. Her breath caught as she spun toward the bed. There, like the first crack of light through a storm cloud, Nelson's lips twitched. She rushed to his side, hands trembling. And then, his eyelids fluttered. For one breathtaking second, 5 years of silence shattered, his eyes opened. Sydney's scream of joy echoed through the house. "He's waking up," she cried, tears streaming down her face. After 1,825 days of darkness, their miracle had begun. Andrew and Fiona burst through the door the moment they got Sydney's call. Their hearts pounded as they flew up the stairs, hope and fear twisting together. Fiona fell to her knees beside Nelson's bed, gently cradling his face. "Sweetheart, can you hear me?" she pleaded, tears spilling down her cheeks. For one fragile moment, his eyelids fluttered open. His glassy eyes met hers just for a second, before slipping closed again. "That's enough. We're going now," Andrew barked, already scooping Nelson into his arms. Tires screeched as they raced back to St. Mary's, where doctors swarmed around him, hooking up IVs and monitors. The nurse squeezed Fiona's shoulder. "This is good," she murmured. His body's remembering how to wake up. Fiona clung to those words like a lifeline as the machines beeped around them, each sound a proof that after 5 long years, their son was finally coming back to them. Week by week, Nelson grew stronger, moving his hands, forming words, even sitting up on his own. Fiona's heart swelled with hope each day, until the moment everything shattered. The second Nelson's eyes landed on her, his entire body jerked. A blood-curdling scream tore from his throat. "Get her away from me!" Fiona's blood ran cold. "And Nelson, baby, it's Mommy." "No, don't touch me!" He thrashed against the bed, tears streaming as he clutched Andrew's shirt. "Daddy, make her go." Andrew yanked Fiona backward just as a nurse rushed in. The last thing Fiona saw before the door closed was her son's face, terrified of her. When the doctor finally got Nelson alone, the boy's confession came in a broken whisper. "My mom. She hates me." His small hands twisted the hospital blanket. "And now I hate her too." The doctor leaned closer. "What makes you say that, young man?" Nelson's breath hitched. "When I was asleep, I could hear everything." A tear rolled down his cheek. "She said she wished I'd either wake up," or his voice cracked, "or just go away forever." The doctor's throat tightened. "That must have felt awful, son, but sometimes grown-ups say terrible things when they're hurting too." "Does that make it okay?" Nelson fired back, his coma-weakened voice suddenly fierce. "I was trapped in my own body, and my mom wanted me gone. The heart monitor beeped loudly in the silence that followed, proof that even miracles come with scars. Just outside the door, Fiona stood like a ghost, her whole body trembling as Nelson's words sliced through her. "I never meant it," she choked out, collapsing against Andrew. "God, I was so broken. But those words weren't me." Her nails dug into her palms. "How do I fix this?" Andrew pulled her close. "Start by looking him in the eyes." But Fiona couldn't. Not yet. So every dawn, she slipped a handmade card under Nelson's door, each one bearing the same 3 words in shaky letters: "I'm sorry." For 7 long days, Nelson let every "I'm sorry" card sit untouched. Then, on the 8th morning, Fiona walked in. She sank to her knees beside his bed, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't deserve this. But please know, every word I said was a lie. The truth." A tear splashed onto his blanket. "I needed you. Every second." Andrew stepped closer. "Son, when people are drowning in pain, sometimes they push away the very thing that could save them." Nelson's lip quivered. "I heard you, and I thought—" His small voice broke. "Thought you didn't want me anymore." Fiona reached for his hand. He hesitated for a second before finally let her take it. "I forgive you, Mom." The tears burst. Fiona gathered him into her arms, their sobs mingling, his hospital gown soaking up her tears. Somewhere in that embrace, beyond the pain, beneath the scars, they finally found their way back to each other. A month later, Nelson was discharged on wheelchairs. Although being discharged, he would have to go for therapies, and he would be standing on his own feet again. Nelson taking his first step at the therapy center, Andrew and Fiona stood by his side every step of the way. Nelson slowly grew stronger, not just his body, but his heart too. The road wasn't perfect. Some days were harder than others, but they faced them together. After years of darkness, they had finally found their way back to each other. Not as the family they once were, but as the family they had become, scarred but unbroken. After everything that happened, do you think their family ever truly recovered? Or do some scars last forever? Let's discuss in the comments. And if you're craving more emotional, twist-filled stories, smash that subscribe button so you never miss one. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next heart-stopping tale.